As you can see on the screen, the topic I selected for today is codes, supercodes, code families and supercode families. In the Mac version they have already changed the terminology and they're not talking about super anymore, they talk about smart objects. So smart codes, smart code. Oh, actually that should be groups here as well in the Mac version. So you will also see terminology shifting also in version 8 of Atlas. What I want to talk about is a frequent misunderstanding that these four objects kind of are replacement for the non-existing tree structure for organizing codes in Atlas, kind of forcing a hierarchy. And then you get comments like, oh, Atlas only has 4 levels of hierarchies and not more, and these are the codes, supercodes and the code families and supercode families, and this has nothing to do with hierarchies at all. So this is actually a screenshot of the code manager. So we see here some codes, and the normal codes are these yellow icon here in the Windows version. If they have a comment, then we have a little post-it note. Supercodes are always red. So these codes here I colored in red, but these are normal codes. I see it here by the icon, but this up here is a supercode, and supercode are always queries. I will talk some more about that. So here you actually see I kind of labeled in a way it's block entry core effects of parenting negative, so you can actually do see the query still in the code name here. And then here on the other side here in that side panel we have the families. So the yellow ones and the selected one are always kind of in bold. They are like having a little boundary around it to say, well, this is a group of codes. And if they have a red boundary, then there are supercode families. Also here, the supercode families are a query, mostly and or, depending on which family you're working with. So let's look into this a bit closer. So regular codes are always directly linked to their quotation. In ATLAS.ti, if I open a network view, I can import the quotations, and you always have a direct link between the quotation and the code. A super or smart code is always linked via the query. So this is why you cannot use the smart or super code for coding, because it's a query. Could be code A, code B, code C, but do not include D. So you can actually, create quite complex queries. And every time you click on that supercode, it's gonna run the query and it will produce the up-to-date results. And that's why that term smart is a bit better, because it's smart. Yeah, if you unlink some of the quotations or you recode and something that was coded A is now coded D, well, it's gonna then be excluded given my query that I had before. So every time you click on it, it will run the query behind it and will give you the up-to-date results. And that's why in the first instances, if you haven't run it yet, when you open a project, it will not give you a number. It will give you like an asterisk. And first, if you run it, you will get the frequency of how often this occurs. And then below here I have some code families. I've seen the icon here up front, and here I wrote it correctly, code groups or smart code groups. You see the icons also a bit bigger. This is the Windows version, and at some point in time I also will add some Mac videos, but the principles are the same. They don't use colors, it's all kind of in a gray type of colors, but they also have special icons to indicate codes and families and the difference between smart and and regular codes. In the Mac version, the icon is filled in if it's smart, and if it's not filled in. It's a regular code. So this just as a bit of an introduction, and let me move now into an Atlas Live project where you can see what I had before in the screenshots. Yeah, so same project that we have seen before. So let me show you the direct link, and I take a code that has not so many quotations. So this code has 6 quotations. I see it here by the number, and it has 1 link, which is already pointed out. Let me remove this from the project. So by the way, yeah, if you want to remove something, don't delete it, just remove from project. So now I bring in the neighbors. Right click, import neighbors, and I want the quotation neighbors. So this is what you've seen before in my little graphic. So we always have a direct link between the quotations. Yeah, so that's not the case for smart codes, because it goes through the query. So here we have a smart code. I can bring in neighbors, also quotation neighbors, but you see they're not linked to the smart code. You can just get the result of the query, so to speak. Yeah. So when I was saying importing the neighbors, it was running the query and now giving me the 27 quotations, but you don't see a link. You only get the results. And by the way, this is only for illustration purposes. I would never use the network view to ask for quotations as a result, because you see it's already running out of space, even if you have a bigger screen. So this is just to illustrate there is no direct link between a supercode and the quotation that are resulting from the supercode. So how do you create a supercode? Well, I produce a query here, and let me run something a bit more complicated. So I do get, I think I want something on the study design. That's one of the more complex queries I also use as an example to practice the query tool. I want the OR operator here, so everything that when people use, either asking the wrong questions or critiquing the study design, and I only want to have that in the block comments. That's why I need my block entry code in here, and I want to find basically, yeah, and I just undo here. I need to swap in order for this to work. So I want block entry encloses my OR query, and now I want to see whether these people who wrote on the blog and critiqued the study design or said, you know, they're asking the wrong question, what their attitude is towards having children. And now I do run a co-occur query. So at this moment I have no results, but you know, it's just a small project. There's some more data coming in, and I want to save this now because currently I have no result, and but I now went through all this effort to create this query, and then I just save it as supercode. Now it stores the query, and now you can rename it. Maybe I just leave the asterisk so it pops up on top of the list. Attitude of those blog writers who critique study design. So this is actually kind of a research question I pose. So if I use the attitude that I believe children are equal didn't make me happier or unhappier. Well, I get actually 2 results, and I also want to store this as supercode and attitude neutral of blog commenters, actually writers, critique, study. Yeah, so just as an example of what might be a good idea to store as a query, so I don't have to click this again if I went all through this effort to do that. Of course, you can also do this on less complicated queries. So here you can clearly see this is not a hierarchy level up. A supercode is not just like a category code or something. So code families are also not category codes. And let me just change this view to single column. What you see here, and there's also longer videos online where I actually tell you how to build up a coding system, or my suggestion on how to do this. This is what I call a category code, and these are subcodes. So I have 2 levels of hierarchy in it. I have 3 levels here because I have this negative, positive in here as well, and I hardly ever need more than 3 levels because you often then would get into trouble building a proper hierarchical coding system. So effects of parenting, I do have a family, but I need it as a filter because sometimes I want to ask a particular research question or want to produce certain tables, and I want to go through my how many codes I have, 140 codes. I always see it at the bottom left of the list. Yeah, and I only want to quickly see all my definition happiness codes, especially when coding. So I only have a small space now here for the video, so everything doesn't get too small. But if I'm going through and want to code something, and I actually don't show here anything at the moment, and then I said, well, this piece is about effects of parenting negative. I just click on here and I don't have to scroll through the entire list. I can just drag drop my code. So that's why I'd like to have also a code family of each category. But now I just clicked on another family where you see I actually have my explanation category plus some attribute codes here that are in the family. And I just clicked on another one here. Here you see it by the colors. There are codes from different categories, reasons for having, not having children, and attribute codes, my blog entry code in here. So you can have the same code in multiple families. So if I click on that code here, I see it's in 2 families. If I click on that, it's also in 2 families. Yeah, so that's why a code family is not a good idea to have a higher order hierarchical code, because it's not clear cut. I mean, if that code is here under reasons for having children, it is only here under reason for having children and not somewhere else. So if you want to create a proper code hierarchy, code family are not a good idea. And then let me show you something else. So I just do a test network and I bring in two code families. And let me bring in some codes as well. That's enough, just for showing it. So I can link codes to each other, giving them named relation, but I cannot link code families to each other. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Because I could have the same kind of, the same code in a code family, and then I would link, and then if I would link this to each other, this is leading to or strategy for or something, but then in these families the same codes are contained, then every relation that I would create between these two code families wouldn't make any sense. Well, let me kind of demonstrate this by creating, well, I have studied design here, and let me create actually a new family where I take some of these codes, so I just type for demonstration. So I put these two in it, and I put these two in it, and yeah. So depending on what you want to do, I mean, you may need this special filter, and maybe I also add these two codes here. So now I open this network view and add this code family to it, so you can also do it by a drag and drop, and then for demonstration purposes. Now I bring in the codes. Yeah, and I also import the neighbors here. Yeah, so I have some of the codes are different and some of the codes are the same. So, but you see, both of these are in here, and now I would try to link this with this leads to that, or strategy for, or is consequent, or is context of, and then I have the same codes in it. That's why it's a feature. That's why Atlas does not allow to link code families via named relations. And that's also why it's not a good idea to have categories, it's on the higher order codes, in form of code families, because then you cannot link these things to each other. So that's why my recommendation is to represent the code structure in higher and lower order categories via your code labels. And I always, in order to indicate when this is a category, higher order code, I use simple category capital letters, and I use different colors for different categories. And talking about the different levels and how deep a hierarchy should be or should not be, maybe that probably for another video. One last thing about the super or smart families here. Here you see, I can, as I've done previously, create a new family and add codes from different families, but I maybe just want regret and my study design family. I want this together, and I want to re-click this all myself. And here I have the and the or Venn diagram. So and is nothing in this case, so I can do and or queries here on the simple level, and I can just say create superfamily. That's all. So this is regret in study design. If I do my study design family and my demonstration, because now I do have an overlap here, if I want an AND query, just finding the two codes that are, or the codes that are in both families, well, I can also do a new superfamily, study design, and so the intersection between the two families. This will be mostly done with PD families. Let me just show this to you, because here we have the marital status and we have the education. So if you want all married women with high school education, we click on the PD family now, married, and we click on, did I say female? Yes, all married now with high school degree. You could also do that. High school degree, but now of course you see it's or, it's adding it all up, we need and. So these are my 4 women who are married with a high school degree, and now I could just say create super family, and now I have a super document family, marital status, married, gender, female, education, high school. So this is what this smart super code PD family stuff is for. So I hope this has enlightened a bit the issue that these are no objects on a hierarchical level. These are objects for different purposes, and the main purpose of families is to filter your data. They are good for all kinds of queries, to reduce your list and to just make you see what you want to see, to really kind of nail down in that part of your data that you want to see. And this is what you create these families for. And you can create any kind of combination, as you've seen me doing it here, any combination that you want, but not for hierarchies. Goodbye.